Hello and welcome back to Shakesyear. We are down to the last two monologues in Fair M. Today and tomorrow we're going to get to hear from Fair M both days in Act 5, Scene 1. So really quick recap. We have the nobles and we have the clowns. And as far as the nobles are concerned, that's William the Conqueror and his crew. William ran away with Blanche because Blanche and Mariana did this whole switcheroo thing. Blanche likes William, William likes Mariana, Mariana likes Lubeck. But when Zwino, Blanche's father, found out about all of this, he got furious and he arrested Lubeck and Mariana, threw both of them in jail, and sent letters to William saying, "You better send my daughter back right quick." And William was like, "But I don't have your daughter. I never did. I left with Mariana, so I don't know what you're talking about. But, you know, you're welcome to come and check." Meanwhile, while William was off courting Blanche and then Mariana, the two guys that he left in charge, Dymarch and Dirow, got kind of at each other's throats, and both were amassing armies so that they could fight each other if they need to, which means William has armies ready at his disposal right now for when Zwino comes to visit, just in case he might need them. On the clown side of things, M had been feigning deafness and blindness to avoid the advances of Mountney and Vallingford. But when Manville saw this, he also threw up his hands and was like, "I don't want anything to do with that anymore." And that made her very sad. He went and got engaged to somebody else, and word got back to her that he's now engaged to a woman named Eleanor. And she got very sad. She admitted to her father that this was a ruse, and Vallingford was also there. She admitted to the two of them that this was a ruse, and Vallingford is like, "Okay, so you ready to marry me now?" And the miller is like, "Too soon. I gotta go comfort my daughter because she's not well." So that brings us up to the end of Act 4. We start out Act 5, Scene 1 in England on sort of like a neutral plane, whatever, where William and Zwino are supposed to meet. And Zwino's like, "Okay, we're ready for this? Good. And then William and his guy come in, they're like, "We're ready for this? Good. And William's like, however it is, whatever energy he comes in with, I'm just gonna match him. If he comes in wanting to be a friend, great. If he comes in wanting to be an enemy, great. We're ready one way or the other." So then Zwino and his crew come back in, and William's like, "Hi and welcome. Are you gonna be my friend, or are you not going to be my friend?" And Zwino starts, calling William horrible names, and William is like, "Okay, you just kind of broke this truce that our countries have had for a really long time." And Zwino's like, "You already did that when you stole my daughter." And William's like, "I didn't steal your daughter. I don't have your daughter." And Zwino's like, "Yeah, you do. I'm going to go get these two. And he sends for these two prisoners, Lubeck and Mariana, to come in to verify that William ran away with Blanche. Meanwhile, William and Dymarch have a little aside over here where Dymarch is like, "Yeah, I was walking through the camps and some of the soldiers were talking and they were saying that the lady that's with you, like, yeah, that might actually be Blanche." And William was like, "Oh my goodness, you have to be kidding me. You have to be kidding me that that's maybe Blanche." And she's like, go get her and bring her here. Meanwhile, Lubeck and Mariana enter, and Zwino is like, "I'm gonna behead them if you don't give me back my daughter." And Lubeck is like, "Sorry, boss." And William is like, "I'm sorry that you're suffering on my account." And then they bring in Blanche, and she's no longer masked. And now William can see Mariana is over there with Lubeck. Blanche is the woman that went with him, and he's like, "I'm sorry, I didn't know. They pulled a switcheroo on me." And Mariana's like, "Yeah, actually that was me. I coordinated the whole thing. Sorry about that," so that she would go and I could stay with Lubeck. And Blanche is like, "Yeah, sorry, Dad. I didn't mean to run away and not tell you about it." And Zwino is like, "Under normal circumstances, you would be so grounded for something like this, but I love you, so I forgive you. And since you love William so much, you can now marry him." And William was like, "Wait a second. No, I didn't sign up for that. I don't want to marry her." And Zwino is like, "What? You don't want to marry my daughter?" And William is like, "I've been deceived by enough women. I want nothing to do with women. None of them are kind. They're all deceitful. They're all conniving." And Blanche is like, "No, there's some women that are faithful and loyal and lovely." At which point Fair M, Elner, Vallingford, Mountney, the Miller, and Manville all enter to come before William and sort of plead their case. And William's like, what are you doing here? And Vallingford is like, this guy promised both of these women that he would marry them. So he's talking about Manville saying to both M and Elner that he would marry them. And William's like, okay, but who did you promise first? And he's like, well, actually M. And Elner's like, yeah, but nobody was around to like see that, so that doesn't really count. And M's like, well, but you promised me in your heart that you were going to marry me. And there's a little bit more back and forth that happens there, but they finally get to the meat of it, and they're like, so, Manville, what happened? Why did you forsake her? Because he admits that he forsook her. He's like, well, but, some stuff came up, some impediments came up that meant that she was no longer the woman for me, which is why I left her and am now gone over here. And William's like, what kind of impediments? And he's like, well, she suddenly became deaf and blind. And William is like, wait a sec, but you can see and hear people now. Like, what how is it that you're cured of this? And M says, pardon, my lord, I'll tell your grace the truth, be it not imputed to me as discredit. I loved this Manville so much that still my thought, when he was absent, did present to me the form and feature of that countenance which I did shrine an idol in mine heart. And never could I see a man, methought, that equaled Manville in my partial eye. Nor was there any love between us lost, but that I held the same in high regard, until repair of some unto our house, of whom my Manville grew thus jealous, as if he took exception, I vouchsafed to hear them speak, or saw them when they came. On which I straight took order with myself to void the scruple of his conscience, by counterfeiting that I neither saw nor heard any ways to rid my hands of them. All this I did to keep my Manville's love, which he unkindly seeks for to reward. So now she's confessing. She's confessing again. We've heard this before. We heard her tell Vallingford and her dad, but now she's telling William, the king, and also Manville is there to overhear this. She's like, this whole thing was fake. I pretended because I never thought that I would see another man who I could love as much as Manville. I loved him so much. But then these other guys started coming to my house, and in order to quell his suspicions, because he was getting jealous, I just decided that I wasn't going to see or hear the other men. I did this because I love him, and now he wants to marry somebody else because of that. And Manville turns to her and he's like, wait, you pretended all of that for me? Because you love me? He's like, I've only ever loved you. And then, of course, she's going to have to respond in the form of a monologue, which we will hear tomorrow as we wrap up Fair M. So come on back for that. Mwah.